Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Talk About the POTS Life, your go-to podcast for all things POTS. Whether you're living with POTS or supporting someone who is, this is the place for you.
Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About the POTS Life. Today, we have a guest with us. You've heard from Carson, you've heard from Cam, and now you get to hear from Cale.
Which is my husband. So now, today, we thought we'd bring him on because I've been getting so many questions, like during the consults and during different calls. They bring in family, or we get the question on Facebook Lives, like, how do you make family understand? So I think because Cale and I found out basically about the diagnosis at the same time, and neither one of us really knew what it was. Yeah. So we're bringing him in today for his input on things.
Well, thanks for having me. I guess I'm the last one of the family to be on here, so
we're still trying.
Drag my feet a little bit.
We're still trying to talk my mom into it. One day.
Yeah, we'll get her on here eventually. Mm-hmm. Now that she's also in the program, I think we have a better chance of scooping her in.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
More pressure.
Yeah.
So when Kelsey first told me she had POTS, I was like, I've never heard that before. Mm-hmm. You're in Cleveland Clinic with her. What was your first reaction with, like, okay, what does that mean now that we know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I actually remember it was either during COVID or right around the same time as COVID. So it was a virtual appointment. So I remember sitting in the dining room at our house when we had the call. I remember what the call was like, and then I remember when the call was over, just kind of looking at each other, and it was probably literally the first time that everything that we didn't even realize was going on for multiple years kind of clicked. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it was, I hear you guys talking about it a lot, and I know a lot of your patients understand it, and their family members understand it, but it was validation. It was the first time that, wow, this doesn't seem so crazy, that this might make sense and there might be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, he really, like Cale said, it was virtual, and he just put so many pieces together. I would say, well, I have this, and he would be like, well, yeah, you do, and sense. This is why. And right, because before that, when I had just started seeing cardiology locally and all those heart monitors, and it just, nothing made sense prior to that.
No, and I feel like during that appointment, we had so many different symptoms or things that always stumped other doctors or emergency rooms, or we never got an answer or explanation. So every time we brought something up new, it was, he understood it, and he's like, yeah, that makes sense. And we were kind of taken back a little bit, like, that's not the answer we're used to getting. So, yeah, actually having somebody understand it and put the whole picture together, it was pretty incredible.
The amount of ER trips. Yeah. I mean, we've been together for almost 17, 18 years. A long time.
Long time.
Yeah. And the amount of ER trips, right, like that we have taken, and chest pain, costochondritis, shortness of breath. I called him one time when I was pregnant from work and was like, they're making me go to the ER because my heart rate was all over the place. Mm-hmm. And they would just say, you're dehydrated. I mean, even from a GI perspective, I guess that was during pregnancy with Carson, like my gallbladder, they were saying gallbladder, and, after that, the amount of trips. I mean, there were just so many things, right, that he's right, that just clicked when we met with Kyle that first visit.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of trips, I don't know how many times you went to MedExpress for some symptom, whether it was chest pain or leg pain or whatever the symptom is.
I forgot about that.
Then you call me 30 minutes later and say, they want me to go to the ER. And then we end up in the ER and sit there for hours, and they run tests, and everything comes back normal. Yeah. So it kind of makes you feel a little crazy. And probably the best way to describe it is broken. I mean, we thought like all these things that she had going on were all independent things that were wrong with her. And, fast forward 3, 4, 5 years. I don't even know how long it's been.
It'll be 5 years in April, which is crazy.
So fast forward almost 5 years later, and then you see how they were actually all connected. Mm-hmm. And also the doctors that you were seeing, or the emergency room visits that you had, they were telling you the right thing, but it just doesn't make sense when you're in the moment and you realize like something's definitely wrong with me. Why can't they find it? And the thing that's wrong with you isn't something that's going to get treated at an emergency room, but still doesn't make it less real, all the trips and, you know, all the scary times that you have.
Yeah, because you're at the ER, you're at MedExpress for like one thing, right? Like I'm having this pain or this reaction or this GI symptom, but it's like that's just one component. Like you can address that GI symptom, but that doesn't resolve the underlying issue that's causing like the multitude of things that are happening.
Yeah, and it just goes in and plays into the part like, well, nobody believes me. And oh my God, you do feel crazy, but then you know you're feeling worse. Right. So then you're like, what? But why? How do I make it click? And I think I just eventually just succumb to like, okay, that this is, I mean, I would say how many times like I'm aging so quick, or I mean, we laugh about it now, but it's
falling apart.
Yeah, falling apart.
Falling
like
apart.
I used to be the most expensive on our health plan. Like I would meet the deductible every year because
within a month,
because ER trips or physicians or testing and, you know, like just trying to make sense of it. And now I just see like, how many times we were like spinning, or if I would get sick or just no energy. And then, I mean, it ebbed and flowed. I would say pretty much since my concussion, like nothing was right since then.
No, and it wasn't like a light switch, right? Obviously, that was a bad injury, but I think it took time to get to the point where you were in a negative way. I mean, you were slowly deteriorating, and you know, I think that's kind of what catches people off guard is probably you slowly get worse and you slowly get better. It's not quick one way or the other.
Yeah, we've had some people talk about, you know, it was like, oh, I had a diagnosis, like, or I got COVID and this happened or this happened, you know? And so like some people do have that like lightning moment that it's easier to get that. But yeah, when your concussion happened, it was years for something to really manifest from that.
Yeah. And I just think how much, I mean, hindsight, right? It's always more clear, but how much we realized as I got better, like the joint pain or even being pregnant with Cam and that was during COVID. So Cale would just have to drop me off and I would go in and then they'd be like, you're dehydrated, you need fluids. And I would spend the whole day there by myself. And then he'd have to come pick me up. And who knew? I mean, we didn't know at that point, or even recovery from my C-section and, you know, just how much was, I think maybe, and I don't know, obviously we don't have a crystal ball, but I was off work during COVID because I was pregnant and that was like the time of unknown. And I worked in a nursing home of all places at the time. And I just wonder, I was able to like lay down with Carson, our older son, and take naps. And I wonder how much that actually probably helped in some ways, but actually made it worse because it maybe just prolonged the inevitable.
Yeah. And I can even, you know, talking about the emergency room visits, I can remember pretty clearly one of the last ones we had where this was already after a diagnosis, after you were already doing better and exercising and on the upswing. I remember still sitting there saying, okay, well, there's something clearly wrong this time. We're not going to let them blame it on POTS. We're going to get down to the root cause of this before we leave. And we walked out of the ER again with no explanation other than it's POTS. And even knowing that she had POTS and what it was, it's still hard to accept the fact that you're going through these symptoms and it's, hey, I know I have POTS, but this isn't POTS. And at the end of the day, a lot of times it is. And I see the frustration from both the patient side and the doctor side because it's hard to understand and it's never simple.
Remember, that was the first October and we were at his cousin's wedding and I didn't feel great kind of going into it. And then the bride started down the aisle and the organ started and I just looked at him. I was like, we got to go. And I remember we went out and I had to like lay in his parents' back seat of the car. And then we tried to go back in and sat at the back. And then I'm like, no, we all rode together. We're just going to go in one car. We went to a restaurant. And again, things like we didn't know. I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little better. We sat on a high top table, which then makes your legs hang down.
Yeah, your feet are hanging.
And I was like, I had to go stand outside. And then here I am, like, I was calling the PCP. I thought maybe something else could be wrong. Like, do I have an infection? I just didn't know what was right or wrong. And then we went to the reception And then like that night was horrible. And then the next morning, I had to call my mom. And I remember standing in my kitchen. Cale was like, we got to go see, like, it has to be something else, right? And I was standing in the kitchen and I'm whatever, over 30, sobbing in my mom's arms. And Cale and I go to the ER. We're like, this is it. Yeah, we're going to get the answers. And then again, the physicians weren't wrong. It's just frustrating that it was only
and
POTS.
you get mad at them because you know they're going to blame it on POTS, and you're like, this isn't POTS, but for you it was POTS. I mean, it was, you rack your brain trying to think of what it is, because it definitely can't be POTS. This is way worse.
That was super, super frustrating that time. And then it's like, it was almost, I talk about people like mourning the different stages, because you're right, I was kind of like on a roll. And then October hit, and then I was just so frustrated about being down and out. And then you almost go through like a whole mental health side of it again. I mean, I tell people, and I mean, you can attest to that, like plenty of tears, frustration.
Well, I mean, it still goes on.
Yeah.
That was, I guess, your first October slide.
Yes.
First time we learned about the October slide.
Yes.
And
yes.
It happens every year since then. I mean, you're so far along in your progress, but I have to remind you how many times that it's normal, and it still doesn't make sense. But it's better than it was, but it still happens.
Yeah, it's so much better. But I also like get so frustrated when I get even like a hiccup of a symptom in October, just because I'm so used to like rolling along at a certain way. And then, it's just like mourning those phases or being frustrated at different phases. And it's so frustrating.
It sounds like you're going to take some of your own advice and give yourself some grace in this process, and that it will be bumpy. And I'm just going to like set a reminder to like go off on your phone. Like, today's October 1st, be prepared. Like
him and my mom say, do I have to remind you of what time of year it is? I'm like, no, I know. Like, it's just, it's so hard and so frustrating. Because even when we like have it down, or like just any part like along that, like after I was diagnosed and after that October, just as the hiccups come, it's hard to like, I don't know, even though I know it, and I tell people all the time, sometimes easier said than done.
Yeah.
Well, it's challenging too, because I don't know, there's probably a lot of different symptoms, things you can have where you get a diagnosis and things instantly start looking up, right? And for this journey, you get your diagnosis and you're still far from being better, and that's the tough part. And I mean, like you said, you're almost 5 years since you got diagnosed, and you still have ups and downs. A lot better than it was. I mean, the Cleveland Clinic was pretty accurate when they said you'd be 80% back to yourself in 6 months, and it was almost to the month where you really started. You didn't even realize you were getting better. It was slow, but you did. But I mean, ever back to 100%, I don't know. That's tough.
It is, and it's like, I don't even know what my 100% was prior.
What that is.
Like, yeah, because
you were sick for so long too. So what was that like? Was that when you were 16 in high school? Because no one's like that anymore.
No,
like that's a whole.
That's aging.
That's true. We try.
Like we don't even know. I don't even know. I just know that like it doesn't control it like it did. I mean, so much so that I tell the story all the time, like to new clients, that whenever like Carson started just like his little like baby soccer league or whatever, and you would have to like set up the chair, set up Cam's car seat, do everything. And it would take me just getting to the field, going to the soccer field, coming home. And our life looked very different than it does now. That took everything out of me. We couldn't, I would say weekends, there was no way they were like they are now, or weeks. There's no way.
Yeah. And it's hard to remember a lot of that stuff. I mean, I think for so long, probably before you even had your diagnosis, when you don't know what's wrong, you kind of push through, not realizing you're making it worse. And from somebody like my lens, somebody that's in more of a support role, you don't even realize it because they don't know that they shouldn't be pushing through. So you see them doing normal activities, but at the end of the day, when you can't even walk up the steps, it just doesn't make sense. So you don't even catch those little things, and that's why it's even tougher.
Yeah, there was so much that You just did, especially because we had 2 kids. So at this point, it's like, what's the alternative? But I mean, yeah, there was so much to that. You just pushed through or just did and then paid for it.
Yeah.
You just didn't. Yeah, you didn't realize. I think the keys, like you said, me crawling up the steps, that obviously was a lowest of low, or like when you would work upstairs and I would have to call you and be like, hey, we're ready to come in. And then you have to carry Cam upstairs and then I have to crawl up with Carson. I mean, just so many things. Or I couldn't even take them for a walk in the neighborhood by myself.
Yeah, no, I mean, in the way our house is set up, our garage is on the basement floor and our bedrooms are on the second floor. So there's 2 flights of steps. So when we would get home from somewhere where it was a little bit later and the kids might be sleeping, I would have to make 2 trips up and down, not really even thinking twice about it. But it wasn't even, you'd be lucky to get yourself up to the bedroom, let alone carrying a kid or 2 up.
Right. Laundry, same thing. Like I would have to wait for him to be able to bring it down or carry it up. Cause like I couldn't even carry myself up. So let alone a laundry basket.
I think this is just a plea that we need more ranch style houses here in Western Pennsylvania. Yeah, I can't complain. I have a ranch. Love it. Love everything.
We needed that.
The less the steps, the better.
Yeah, specifically if you're living with POTS.
Yes,
it's just that change in up and down all the time.
Yes, like things, I forgot about that. Like getting them in, to bed, or just little things, or how I would have no energy. It would take everything I had to get them to bed. And then like I would have to recover in order to make it through the next day. It's like, all the things behind the scenes. I remember a family friend, his dad said to us, like he knew about my diagnosis and stuff. And he was like, well, you look good. And I feel like that like stuck in my head because I'm like, well, great. I'm glad I look good. But man, like, I feel like obviously Cale and then my parents a lot, like they knew what it looked like at home. They knew what it looked like when I had to crawl to the bathroom in the middle of the night, or like Cale would have to get up with the kid. Like I couldn't go if one of them woke up in the middle of the night to put them back to bed. Like I couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's important too, because even to this day, you kind of forget. I mean, it's an invisible illness and you're doing so much better that when you do have times where maybe you're in a flare or things aren't going great, it's hard to remember, you're still dealing with this and it's still part of your everyday life. But you kind of forget that when you see how well you've bounced back and how well you're doing now. It just makes it tough whenever you do, like you said, have a symptom and it sets you back and it messes with your mindset then too.
We've had some people ask about, like on our last live, I saw some questions come through about how do you get your family members to understand what's going on? And you've said before, like you're in that supporter role. What advice would you give to someone from your side of things? Like, how do you get someone to understand this invisible illness?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question. That's tough. Like Kelsey said, we've been together for quite a while. So I was with her before the concussion and before POTS. And then you kind of see that slow, downward spiral of all these symptoms. And you didn't really pinpoint it to one thing and didn't really even know what was going on. So like I said, when she got that diagnosis and we actually had some hope, she preaches it to everybody, all of her patients and all the family members that come, that, having grace is, you got to have grace for yourself when you're a POTS patient. But as somebody in a support role, you have to have a lot of grace, and you got to remind yourself sometimes that, they're dealing with stuff that we will never understand. And, you really truly don't realize it until you see how far you've come to see how bad it actually was. Because when you're living in it, that's just your everyday life. Things are rough. Things are not good. But when you look back, 5 years ago and remember how many symptoms there were, how many different doctor's visits there were, how many sleepless nights there were. I mean, it's easy to forget that whenever somebody's doing well and they're on the upward trend. It's easy to forget those times, but they're still living with that disease and that illness. So, just remember that and make sure you're always checking in and making sure, are you just tired? Is it normal tired, or is there things going on? I think that's the best way to put it, because we know even being as well as she is now, if you overexert yourself, you're going to pay for it, not just in the moment, but days down the road.
Yeah, and to his point, like, give yourself grace or checking in. Like, I remember he would say that sometimes, and I felt like by the time I finally voiced it outwardly, like something was really going on. So I wasn't always good at being like, because when you have POTS, you like, do I want to complain every day? No.
Right.
But then when he'd be like, is something really going on? And I'm like, by the time I would tell him, I'd be like way past the point of needing help.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would just come out as tears. So I think, yes. And in my case, like, him asking probably helped me. I'm not someone to be like, tell you all the time, but I always say, like, if I'm telling you, it's bad. Like, by now it's bad.
I'm past the point of like, oh, I'm having like a bad day.
Correct.
Right? It's more than that. It's like,
been bad days and bad days.
Yeah, it's evolved, and now it's a bad month, and this is where I'm at today.
And then I think too, like, your patience is shorter because you don't feel good. You don't even know it, but like, just imagine yourself when you're sick on a normal day, like, you're irritable. And I felt like that's where I lived all the time because like my body was just like in such like an ick state.
Like a fight or flight.
Yes, all the time. So yeah, I think that's so true. Like, just checking in with them and like letting them know. And you said sleepless nights, which made me think of what adrenaline dumps look like. Do you remember that, like, that first night that I woke up and it was like everything had broken loose? Like, I rolled over in bed and then I'm like, my heart rate's through the roof. Everything is crazy. I'm like, Cale, feel my head. Am I hot? He got ice packs. Like, that first night, we had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's panic. And then, that night and then all the other nights we're laying in bed and I get woken up to the blood pressure cuff going off, the automatic blood pressure cuff going off. And I look over, her feet are up the headboard trying to calm down. And I just roll over and go back to bed.
He's like, this is normal at this point. Like, all right,
after a while, he was like, oh boy, another one. I'm like, it's fine. I at least got this one under control.
But at the beginning, I mean, she's not a worrier or a complainer. So at the beginning, it was a little scary because, okay, it's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Something must serious be going on if you're taking your blood pressure. That's not a normal thing to do.
Right.
It slowly got better and went away. I don't know the last time that's happened.
I know, thank God.
But at the same time, it kind of goes hand in hand with the games that it plays on your mind because there was nothing actually scary wrong, but you don't think that in the moment. So it takes a while to realize, like, towards the end, I would tell her, you don't need to be checking that anymore.
He was like,
she knew
put
that,
it away.
But it took a while. It took a while to actually be able to trust that and not check your blood pressure in the middle of the night and realize that maybe you are having an adrenaline dump and it'll pass, but it's still scary even when you know what it is.
Yeah, it was. So like, you get the adrenaline dumps in that way. Everybody has life stressors, right? And so when you have those adrenaline dumps and then you feel bad, like then the next day that would get me, or it would be continuing. So it was a gift that kept giving. Like, I wouldn't sleep well that night, and then the adrenaline comes, and then the next couple days I don't feel good. Or if you have crazy life events, our son had to go by ambulance twice in the height of like my POTS diagnosis and the adrenaline of waking up and having to call it. I mean, I just remember even after that day, like, that didn't just gas me for the day, it gassed me for a week or 2 weeks, so it's that adrenaline is so scary. It's scary for the person, but even for the support person, I feel like, because he literally, we were trying everything, but if he's right, like, if I start to worry, he's looking at me like, oh dang, is something actually wrong? Like, you don't know. Yeah,
and you're on the journey together, so we learned a lot of it at the same time. Fortunately for me, I didn't have to go exercise 5 or 6 days out of the week, so it was a little bit easier. But you do. You learn together, and you kind of get through it at the same time. So it's definitely a journey.
So all of that to say, where we are sitting today is on a podcast for a program that you developed to help people living with POTS. How did that conversation go at first? Because I know how it went when you came to me with that idea, but I think you ran that by Cale first. So I'm just curious, Cale, from your perspective, like, okay, I have this, now I'm going to help other people.
Tell them.
Yeah, it was like everything else. It was kind of a slow transition. She had started her own physical therapy practice, and it wasn't even geared towards POTS. No. And she had one patient that I think saw a story that the Cleveland Clinic or a news station in Cleveland did on her own journey, on Kelsey's own journey. and she'd reached out, and so she did start treating one patient for POTS, and I guess that was kind of ground zero, and it kind of started growing from there to where she started seeing more and more POTS patients. And she brought me the idea, I think I can create an app to help more people, and she went through the whole spiel, and I was like, it's kind of dumb, why don't you just do what
accurate.
you're doing?
That's what he said.
treat patients like you're doing physical therapy. And well, I'm glad she didn't listen, because hundreds of people that have been touched by this program later. It's been not only a blessing for her to be able to do that for people, but I think also a blessing in many people's lives, and the reach that it's had, and the community that it's created, and not only for POTS patients, but she comes home and tells me stories about she's talking to younger kids with their parents, or patients with their loved ones, and she gets to tell me how happy they are. Sometimes they're crying tears of happiness because somebody actually understands them. And like I said earlier, takes me back to that day we were sitting in our dining room, like hearing the first time somebody actually validate everything you're going through and you're not crazy. The fact that she can do that with people, it's pretty amazing. So yeah, I'm glad she didn't listen to my advice.
I think the selling point would have been or for the question would be an app. What technology skills do you think you have to make an app out of this?
That definitely followed. And I was like, I'm not sure I'll figure it out.
Well, and it's crazy too, just how things happen. Like I said, she started her own physical therapy practice, and she never even considered treating POTS.
I didn't even tell any outside of Britt. Our families, we didn't tell anybody.
No,
and just for the fact that you were able, in your own POTS journey, you were able to even consider starting your own practice, and treating other people was amazing in itself. And then you look 4 years later or so, what it's grown into, and the amount of people that are impacted by it, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's no way when I started was this where I thought the biggest blessing that, it did. And look what it's growing to, and the support, and being able to connect people with others so they feel less alone and validated. And we say it all the time. Obviously, that's the goal of the POTS life, right? For us to help you feel validated, to feel heard, to feel understood, and just relate on a different level. And right, the POTS Life app is now a podcast and support groups and just different things. I know how alone I felt. Not alone in terms of, yes, I had Cale and my family and all of that, but in terms of I would say we both felt alone. I'm diagnosed, and we're like, okay, now what? Yep. And remember when we were sitting with the Cleveland Clinic physician, and he was like, Kelsey, the person you were before POTS is gone, because I had just done that test, and he wouldn't even tell us how bad it was because I failed so ugly. And he's like, the person after POTS can be just as good or better. And that day I did not believe him. I left there feeling so overwhelmed. You're all amped, you're going to go and get all the answers. And then it was almost, I did get answers, but obviously not the ones in my mind at the time, what I was looking for.
Right.
Well, they're not the answers that everybody wants. You get answers, but then you realize the amount of work that it's going to take, and how frustrating that journey is going to be. And yes, there's ups, but there's a lot of downs. And I think you can tell people that, but until they live it, I think that's the hard part. And you get through that part of it, and you realize it was worth it. But it's like you said, you get the answers, but you don't always get the answers you want.
Yeah, that is literally what happened that day. And I hope this piece fills that gap.
Yeah, and it does. And that's the good. And then here's the bad, is sometimes Kelsey forgets she has POTS. So she wants to help so many people that I have to remind her, hey, listen, you have to take time for yourself too, which it's been a struggle for her, but it just goes to show how many people out there need this help and can truly benefit from it. But I have to remind her, hey, you're one of your patients. You have to take time for yourself too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even in the beginning when I was treating heavier at my office till late at night, and I know from a POTS standpoint that's not good, but I just felt like the need to help, and then I would come home and be like, at what cost? You know, like you're not going to be able to help if you can't. So yeah, I still have to check myself. And like Cale said, it looks like in different ways, but we were just very sick, and even the recovery, like I was getting there, but I would say, I said to him, I'm like, man, this is where POTS reminds me it's there, like more fatigue than normal. And so it's still present, and I do need checks sometimes.
And the really fun thing about the POTS Life program is that it connects you with people that understand.
Yes.
Like we've said before, like you guys, okay, got the diagnosis, and it's like, now what do? You just Google go online, you Google, and there's so much information out there, good,
Scary.
bad, and in between. And like, if you find a program that's reputable, that's like, okay, I can actually connect you to someone that can explain this, can support you on this journey, can commiserate. Like, oh yeah,
1,000%.
I had the same experience, or this is my symptom, like that I didn't understand, and that kind of thing. So it's nice to have that community inside.
I just was speaking with someone, and that's the thing. She just joined the app, and I have somebody else that would relate to her perfectly. And I'm like, hey, if you're willing, you know, I can get you in contact. And she was like, I would love that because I just don't know anybody. You know, that's the number one statement. And it was mine too. Okay, you have POTS. I don't know anybody with POTS. And like you said, you can look and Google and all the things, but this really gives you a place to connect on a different level in multiple different ways. We added our monthly Zoom call, which I think has been cool. We brought some grads on, you know, just to give you a place of hope and that it does get better and support. Maybe Cale will join us in a monthly Zoom call one day. Maybe. So it's just a place, validation, hope, treatment, you know, all the whole approach to help you get your life back.
Yeah.
Well, it fills a gap. I think we were really fortunate for when you were diagnosed. I know POTS has been around for a long time, but I don't feel like 5 years ago it was as prevalent as it is now.
Right.
And we were very fortunate you were able to get into Cleveland Clinic and get into the rehab program, and it worked for you. You know, I think this program really fills the gap now with the need of there's just not a lot of options out there. You know, and I don't know where you would be today if you weren't able to get into the Cleveland Clinic that quickly and, you know, find a team that can help you and get back to where you are today. So like I said, I think that this program really fills that gap for a lot of people that are looking for similar results and life quality.
Yeah, scary. I mean, I've never even thought about that, but I can't imagine it would be a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
If you could give some advice, this is a question I asked to people that have POTS, so I'll reframe it for you. If you could use more than one word, but you could use one word too if it's easy enough. One word to explain being a support person or advice for a support person, what would you say?
One word.
I can give you like 3 words if you need them. Yeah.
3 words. I say, okay, I'll just say a phrase. You got to stay on your toes.
There you go.
And the reason I say that is because, like I said, there's a lot of ups and downs. There is a lot of times where, you know, Kelsey's very self-motivated, which is a good thing for this diagnosis. You know, somebody like myself that's probably not as motivated as her, I would struggle a lot more having to exercise and be as, you know, persistent as she is. But I think you got to be there. You got to support the person you're with, whoever it is, if it's a child, if it's a loved one, if it's a parent, you know, you really have to be there to support. It takes a lot to work through this program. I mean, it's not easy. I see what she does. I don't have to live it. I see what she does. And, you know, the times that she drags herself to the bike or the treadmill when
She doesn't want
the
to.
last thing I want to be doing is go work out for 40 or 45 minutes right now, and she has to keep doing it. So, you know, you have to be on your toes because I can't work out for her, but things that you can do to help them out in those certain situations. I mean, take a little bit of load off if the kids need to get ready for bed and she needs to exercise. Well, it's hard to do both. So you really just got to, you know, keep your eyes out where you can help out, where they need the motivation, how they want the motivation, because sometimes she just, I think, wants to feel sorry for herself a little bit, and that's okay. But you have to get them past that, right? Yep. So stay on your toes, because every day is going to be a little different. Some days are good, some days are bad, but it's a lifelong journey. So you gotta be able to cope with it.
Yeah, I think that support, like he said, it looks different through the process. I mean, in the beginning, he would be like, okay, I'm going to go get the kids, and I would have to come home from home care and get on. I had to find the time. And then as you start to feel a little bit better, our life starts to get busier in a good way. That's a good thing. I'm feeling better. Life's busier, but then it also means, oh my gosh, I need to find more time for the bike. So he supported and picked kids up and made dinners and got them to bed. And as I would drag myself down there, or he would say, hey, why don't we go at a while ago, if I walked my neighborhood, it would work for my heart rate zone. And he'd be like, let's just go for a walk, or like to try to do it as like a family thing, or hey, I'm going to take the boys so you have time to bike. So yeah, because it just took that load mentally off of me, and guilt. I don't know. There's just probably a lot to it. Like, well, if I got to go down to the basement for 45 minutes, and then what are the boys going to do? And not that he ever said that, but I think that's just like a mom guilt, you know? So I think, support, and it changes every day, or some days were just worse, and, I needed more help. Or then he also let me try, but also in a good way, checked me if hey, what are you doing? Yeah. You're doing a little too much. So I think just, being that person, and, it changes. It does. Like you said, it changes every day.
Well, and I think too, it's a little bit easier once you get to the point where you're at, right? Where patients, people get to, past 6 months, past 8 months, to where they're truly feeling better. Then they can kind of see that for themselves, that this work is paying off. It's probably those first 4, 5, 6 months that your support's probably the most critical, because you're putting the work in and you're not really seeing the results. You might be seeing a little bit, but you're not really seeing the results. So it literally takes somebody in your corner to really help push you through, to where, flip side, you get past that, and I think you're able to keep yourself a little bit more self-motivated, because you know that it's worth it. But yeah, those first several months where you're putting that type of work and effort in, and you have little to show for it, that's when most people quit, and I understand why.
Yeah, someone else from an outside view can see the wins, the small wins that you had, right? Oh, I could walk up this flight of stairs without having to take a break. That's a win that your support person can see, that you're not going to see that yourself for a while. And so making sure that was great. Having someone to champion you specifically in those first month, first 6 months, for sure, to help celebrate those wins.
Yeah, look where you came from. Yeah, I think it's huge. Yeah. Such a key part.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you finally agreed to join us for an episode. I thought it was really impactful to hear your side of the journey as well.
I was glad I could be a part of it.
Yeah, I think it'll just bring a different perspective and level of support for those, whether they have POTS, supporting someone with POTS. Either way, I think it's, very beneficial.
Don't forget to subscribe, follow us on all the major streaming platforms. You can watch us on YouTube, and visit us at thepotslife.com.
Yes, we hope you tune in for next episode, and we'll see you then. Bye.